What's going on, everybody? It is your boy Chris, man. I am here at the Work Hard, Play Harder podcast. It is Friday, August 15th, 2025. My name is Chris Drummond. I am a freelance sports reporter based out of upstate New York here, and proprietor of this podcast, Work Hard, Play Harder, where I bring individuals on to talk about their why and get to know them outside of their occupation. But this show is a little different. This is going to be a college football special that I'm going to be doing with a returning guest that actually has been on my podcast before. She's covered Coastal Carolina. She's covered games in the Southern Conference. And this upcoming season, she's going to be a PA announcer for the Coastal Carolina football games. Her name is Joanne Bethea, and I welcome her to the podcast. What's up, Joanne?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I cannot wait to talk some college football. This is my favorite time of year.
Absolutely, mine too. Obviously, we're 8 days away from college football kicking off, but obviously the two ranked teams in Iowa State and Kansas State, which is a Big 12 matchup, which is amazing. But the first thing I want to get into is some key matchups of the season. I think obviously week one they hitting us with some bangers, no question about that. From LSU to Clemson. Let's talk about that particular matchup. Obviously, Clemson's the home team. LSU, number nine. Clemson's ranked number four. Talk to me about your thoughts about that particular game and what do you expect to see, not only from Clemson, but maybe from LSU?
I do think having home field advantage will play a huge part in this, especially considering it's 7:30. Let's be honest, people are going to have all day to drink. They're going to come in there absolutely wild. Something about being under lights
Hmm.
just makes for a completely different atmosphere. And I think any college football coach that you talk to would agree with me. Um, but from what I've heard, being a girl in South Carolina, I went to Clemson. I have a lot of connections still at Clemson.
Sure.
A lot of people seem to have really high hopes for this team.
Hmm.
And I've heard people compare this team to the 2018 team that, ran Alabama out of the 49er stadium in the national championship.
Yeah.
Um, I I think a lot of that is due to the fact that Cade Klubnik this is what I think his third season being starter. You
Yep.
just have a ton of talent returning. Like back in that 2018 team, you had talent, but also all of them were juniors, seniors, grad students. And I
Hmm.
think it's the same way with this year. So, I mean, as much as, someone coming in that's a freshman, if they have talent, it doesn't replace actually putting cleats on and going up against somebody on the other side of the line that's a college talent versus when you played in high school. So I think between Clemson being at home and Clemson having all of this veteran return talent on their team, I think Clemson is going to pull this out with a W.
Well, and listen, and I know you're not being a homer because you're a Tiger alum. I certainly know that. And but listen, this is a great analysis of what you think, and great opinion of what you think as well. I do think they got Clemson ranked pretty high at number four this year. Um, I've talked to you about it a little bit. I think Cade, to me, in the past has been inconsistent. That's my one problem with him is that he will have some great games, and then he'll have some stinkers. And that's why Dabo, when DJ was there they kept, interchanging the quarterback a little bit with them. I think this is Cade's year to kind of step out and prove
Mhm.
himself in the ACC. This is the reigning ACC champions to prove that, hey, listen, I can be a top flight quarterback in the college football, right? And I think that he can, but I also think LSU is going to probably have a chip on their shoulder. If you tell me this, in your opinion, do you think Brian Kelly's seat is hot? Because I think his seat is getting warmer and warmer by the year. No question about it. Do you think Brian Kelly's seat is hot?
Yeah, I was really shocked when they hired him. Not that he's not a good coach,
Hmm.
I just don't think he fits into the vibe of LSU. Like Coach O was literally made, God put him on this earth to be
Yes, he
LSU's
did.
head
Yep.
coach.
Yep.
But like Brian Kelly was perfect at Notre Dame. He has that demeanor, that I'm trying to think how to describe it, just an aura about him that fit the mold for Notre Dame. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of what head coaching is nowadays isn't necessarily knowing the X's and O's. It's getting people to drink the Kool-Aid you're pouring them. It's
Hmm.
getting people to, buy into your business. It's running a business. And so when you have people that, go to LSU expecting, one kind of culture, but he's trying to create a different kind of culture, I think it
Right.
just clashes. So that's why really I was surprised when they hired him for that reason because like I said, I just don't think his culture and the LSU culture are the same culture.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, his seat is definitely hot because at LSU, I mean, really, most schools in the South, if you aren't winning your conference, if you're not now making the playoffs, at least every other year or regularly, it's a failure of a season.
Yeah, I mean, you have 12 spots. Last year, most of those spots were dominated by SEC teams of the playoffs for sure. They wasn't even in contention to make the playoffs last year, and that's something that has to change. I don't know if it's going to change this particular season. Obviously, they started with Clemson. They got to play Alabama. I believe. If I'm not mistaken, LSU, I have them losing at least 2 or 3 games this year. And listen, with college football, once you lose 2 or 3 games, you pretty much out of the playoffs. I mean, that's just the way it is in college football. But I do see Clemson winning this game. I see them kind of struggling in the first couple of quarters and then pulling away in the second half. That's what I see. I see the crowd being very energized in a night game, a home game, opening weekend. I see Clemson winning the game big time. What about the running game though? Because I think Cade's going to need a running game behind him. Him throwing the ball is great, but what about the running game? Do you think, um, or do you think the running game, I should say, is going to be complementary to what Cade can do?
So Adam Randall, who has been a wide receiver for Clemson, I think he ran the ball a couple times last season, but he now
Mhm.
this season has permanently on the roster gone on as a running back. He
Right.
actually is a South Carolina guy, grew up an hour down the road from me.
Okay.
He is explosive. He's just one of those guys where how there's just some football players you look at and you're like, that's an athletic guy that we could probably
Hmm.
put anywhere and he would do well.
Right.
That's Adam. And I think that's why they put him at running back because I think a lot of people nowadays underestimate what a run game can do for you
Right.
because so many defenses, you know, are running those nickel and dime packages where they're ready for people to throw the ball, where they're not necessarily having that strong upfront defense. So when you have somebody like Adam Randall who can bust through the line, who is fast, who is athletic, he's also just like a bigger guy.
Hmm.
um, I think he is going to be very complimentary to Cade. And I think that's also why they put him at running back because not to downplay Cade, but I don't think he's very good at running the ball.
No.
And which was a problem, before because if he ever got out of the pocket, it was like a chicken running around with his head cut off.
Right.
And so
Right.
I think now having somebody that he knows he can rely on to hand the ball off to get it downfield, I think it's going to be really good for Clemson because they already have so many people that are talented at their receiver position. So I
Hmm.
think it was really smart of them to have Adam Randall permanently be at the running back position.
Yeah, they need some explosive plays. One of the main things, like looking at Clemson's offense last year, looking at them, explosive plays is something that they definitely need. They need to score easier a little bit. Seems like sometimes it was kind of a struggle for them to score last year, in my opinion. But I want to talk about their schedule because their schedule is pretty light. Pretty light. Not a
After
lot
week
of ranked
one,
teams.
it's like,
Right, right, right. It's not a lot of ranked teams on there. If I'm not mistaken, they do play Miami. I believe they play Miami.
I don't think they play Miami. Oh,
Do
I
they?
could be
Do
wrong.
they? I
I
could be
don't think they
wrong
play.
too. I know they play
I know
Syracuse.
they play Syracuse, which Syracuse I think is an underrated team that not enough people are talking about.
Hmm.
I think Fran Brown is a force to be reckoned with. I think
Hmm.
he is going to be at a school soon where they pay a lot of money and put a lot of money into the football team because he, like I said before with coaching, and maybe I harp on this too much, but just having that style of getting people to get behind you and like I'd go play for him right now. Coach, I got 6 years of eligibility left. Let me
Right,
snap.
right, right.
And I have a friend from Clemson that actually works for Syracuse, and
Okay.
he loves him. And I was like, if you could ever get me to talk with him, like just to pick his brain, like he just seems to have the best of both worlds of being a good leader, but also having a great personality.
Absolutely. I'm definitely looking forward to doing some Syracuse
Oh
University
yeah,
football
that's right.
games this
That's right
year.
near you.
Yes, absolutely. And looking forward to that. And obviously, some of the matchups on their schedule is big time. They do play Miami, Syracuse
Yep.
does. They also play UNC, which is Bill Belichick's team, coming in there as well. So I'm looking forward to those couple matchups and even more. But on the Clemson schedule, I do know they play SMU.
Yes.
They definitely play SMU on the schedule, which is a rematch of the ACC championship. How do you see that matchup pairing out between those two teams?
Well, again, Clemson is getting really fortunate that the bigger teams they are playing, they seem to be playing them at home. They play
Hmm.
Syracuse at home, they play SMU at home, they play LSU at home.
Yep.
And as somebody who grew up with a dad that played at Clemson, I have been in Death Valley many, many times,
Yep.
and it really does make a difference. I remember, I think it was 2016 Louisville. Um, the crowd was so loud. The first two snaps when Louisville was on offense were false starts because of the noise. So the fans at Death Valley really can make a difference. I don't know though. I feel like for SMU, when you come in playing with a chip on your shoulder, you play differently. Or sometimes if you are Clemson and you come in like, oh, we've already beaten them. So I think
Hmm.
it's really up to the coaching staff to remind them that this is not the ACC championship game. This is a new year, new
Right.
team. We're a new
Right.
team.
Hmm.
Um, because I think SMU has definitely has the talent to beat Clemson. I think it's kind of just up to who wants the win more.
I feel that. I mean, I definitely do. I think it's going to be a classic game, for sure. This is not a neutral site game like the ACC championship was. It's going to be in Clemson. I
I
do
don't know.
believe that.
Charlotte isn't exactly neutral.
That is
There's a
true.
lot of Clemson people there.
That is true. That is true. You know, the Bank of America Stadium, they do fill up with Tiger fans very, very quickly, for sure. And SMU being obviously in Texas, that's a heck of a travel for them. So, but I do think, um, uh, I was gonna say that 2016 game that you were talking about. If I'm not mistaken, that was Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson, they quarterbacks
Hmm.
with both of those teams. That was an epic game between
Hmm.
those two. No question about it. With Clemson, I believe, coming in on top. So yes, I do remember that game. Um, let's talk about the other big matchup, which is Texas and Ohio State. Everybody is going to be tuned in to the TV to watch this particular game. Obviously, Texas, Arch Manning, they're number one. Steve Sarkisian. People, this is what Texas' third year in the SEC, if I'm not mistaken. Um, there's been some whispers about him. I mean, because he lost to Georgia twice, and especially that second game, which was super competitive. And in the second game, they went to overtime. He has to get over that hump because they feel that Texas is a team to beat in the SEC. But you're going against the defending champions, which is Ohio State. Number three, Heisman candidate, and Jeremiah Smith as the wide receiver. This is a big time top three matchup type game. Tell me your thoughts on this particular game.
I'm really interested to see how Arch Manning is going to perform. I believe this is his first true start. I think he
Hmm.
got a couple snaps last season, but this is his first true start.
Hmm.
And I mean, what a way to start. But the thing is, I think if you want anybody at that position in such a high caliber game, it's him. Because I think as a Manning, he already knows what it's like to be under scrutiny, what it's
Hmm.
like to constantly be watched. I mean, he's a third generation talent player. I mean, he had his grandfather, Archie Manning, then obviously Eli and Peyton. So this is nothing new to him having pressure, which is a big deal when it comes to games like this. Like I said, I think a lot of people forget the mental side of a game.
Sure.
Like I think that was Cade Klubnik's problem for so long. I think he has the talent. I think he just didn't have the confidence. And so that's something that Arch Manning will have on his side coming into this game is that he's going to have the confidence because his whole life he's like, oh, you're a Manning, you're great at football. Now,
Hmm.
hopefully, that I don't really know what he was like in high school. I'm guessing it was good since he's now playing for Texas. But
Sure.
hopefully, it's not the flip side where he hasn't put in the preparation, hasn't put in the work because he just thinks that his genetics is going to come through.
Right.
Um, this is a hard one to say who's going to win. I mean, like you said, with somebody coming in as the defending national champs, and I know Ohio State is really looking to win another one because I think this would be the first time for Ohio State that they've ever won back to back.
Hmm.
Um, and I think Ryan Day is the kind where he likes to make a statement. Um, so I think overall, I think Ohio State is going to be the one to pull this out. I don't know if Texas is at the level they need to be yet. I think they're like right there. I think they're kind of like Penn State. They like are right there. They're knocking on the door of greatness, but I don't
Hmm.
think they're there yet.
I totally agree with that. Ohio State is definitely my champion, and we're going to talk about obviously who we think is going to win the national championship eventually. But Ohio State is definitely a team to me, the team to beat. Now Texas, don't get me wrong, they got great players, got a great quarterback. Sarkisian is an offensive genius, no question about it. But I got to see their defense. I got to see Texas defense. I got to see how they fare up and match up against Ohio State's defense. I got to see how they defend Ohio State offensively. I think personally it's going to be a brawl for the first, like I said, probably 3 quarters, and I think Ohio State's going to make a big play and pull it out in the end. Yes, this is Arch Manning's first start, no question. It's on the road. He knows about pressure. Like you said, he knows about high stakes games and different things of that nature. Having uncles, because I believe it's Cooper's son, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Hmm.
So uncles of Eli and Peyton, and then grandfather Archie playing the quarterback position. So he definitely knows about that. Plus, he's already got some playing time when he sat behind Quinn Ewers last
Hmm.
year. He definitely has playing time, so he knows about the college football game. And I think this is going to be obviously the most exciting game of the week. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be
We get a
fun.
lot of answers early on,
We
seeing how
do.
two teams play out.
We
And I will
do.
say, Texas has a lot returning, especially on secondary for defense.
Hmm.
So, I mean, if they can stop Jeremiah with their secondary that has experience, then it's going to make it for a way easier game for them.
Well, they're definitely going to have to double team him, have somebody over the top. They can't single him 1-on-one for
No.
sure. So the other receivers are going to have to make an impact on that team for Ohio State for sure. But that's two of the top 10 matchups. I think the last top 10 matchup that we have is Notre Dame and Miami. Obviously,
Hmm.
Notre Dame being a finalist last year in the college football playoff against Ohio State, and Miami just missing it the playoffs last year. They're obviously top 10. Notre Dame is ranked number 6. Um, I think Love is going to have a huge game. Jeremiah Love, which is also um, a Heisman candidate potential, I should say. I think Marcus Freeman does a great job of instilling confidence in his team, but I also
Hmm.
think that at some point Notre Dame is going to lose a game that they shouldn't lose. Um,
They
it
always
was
do.
they always do, always do. And Miami, to me, they're the most up and down team I've ever seen. And what I mean by that is, you know, they were so up against Syracuse. The Syracuse beat them, came back and beat them. They were getting destroyed if I'm not mistaken, it was California last year on the
Yes.
road.
Yes. And then
They were getting destroyed. Then they came back and won.
hmm
Hard to figure out Cristobal's team. Hard to figure out that Miami team. Tell me some thoughts, if you have any thoughts, on what that Notre Dame Miami matchup would be, which is, I believe, our last top 10 matchup of week one.
Well, I always love this matchup. One of my favorite 30 for 30s is the U. And so I love, Catholics versus convicts. This is a classic
Yep.
matchup. And
Yep.
for Notre Dame, they actually haven't beaten Miami in Miami since the 70s. So I
Hmm.
know they're looking to make that streak go away. But I think this is going to be I hope I'm wrong because I don't really like Notre Dame. I love Miami. Just to be transparent, I think
Okay.
Notre Dame could go 10 seasons with a losing record and still would end up in the top 25. I think they are always overhyped, overranked. Um, this year they fairly were in the top 25 for how they performed in the playoff last year.
Sure.
Um, but as you said, Miami is just so inconsistent. If the right Miami shows up that first game,
Hmm.
I think they'll win. But the thing is, I think it's hard when it's your first game because you haven't got, if you're somebody that, or a team that's not consistent, it's harder when it's your very first game, the first time you're getting live action.
Right.
So gonna, I think Notre Dame's gonna win this one. Like you mentioned, Jeremiah Love, I mentioned earlier, when you have somebody that is a weapon at running back, it is such, what's how do I want to put this? It's just a great thing to have because if you can run the ball
Hmm. Hmm.
consistently, you're going to win football games. Um, and I
Especially
just
in
don't,
college football.
yes, in college football.
Yeah.
And I don't think Miami has the defense to stop him. So I think Notre Dame's going to win this one.
I like it. I do. And it's ironic that these two teams are playing against each other, and this is exactly where the national championship football game is going to be. It's going to be in the exact same stadium coming up that very next year. So, in Notre Dame being a finalist last year, I think that was by, I don't think that was an accident on Notre Dame's part. I think they wanted to kind of start there, kind of envision themselves being back there. Um, for the national championship game. So what better way to make a statement on the road against a top 10 team and playing in a stadium that you could potentially be back at, in my opinion. So I think Notre Dame does win that one for sure. No question about that. I want to talk to you about some coaches. Let's talk to obviously Bill Belichick with UNC, Dan Mullen with UNLV, are two that come to mind. But there's some coaches also in the hot seat as well. DeBoer, Kalen DeBoer with Alabama. We talked about Brian Kelly with LSU. Um, I want to know, is there some other coaches in your mind that you're looking out for this season, or some coaches that you feel are going to be on the hot seat this particular year?
James Franklin is one that comes to mind. As I mentioned
Mm,
earlier, Penn State has been knocking on the door of being a champion, but it hasn't happened yet. So I think he's in the same exact position Ryan Day was this time last year,
hmm.
um, which is why I think Penn State is going to do really well this year. I think he's going to light a fire under his team because he's getting a fire lit under him, like
Sure.
Ryan Day was last year. So I think his seat is really hot right now. Not that Penn
Mm,
State's doing bad, but when you're at a place like Penn State, they expect greatness. And even though he's gotten close, he hasn't gotten there yet.
yeah.
Um, you just mentioned Bill Belichick. I am so excited to see how he does
Yeah, me
because
too.
he's never coached college before. Now, I think if this would have been 10, 15, 20 years ago, I'd be like, that's a really interesting hire
Right.
because handling college athletes then coming from pro, I
Hmm.
don't think like worked as well. But nowadays, with how college football is, I've mentioned this before, it's running a business. And if anybody knows how to run the business of football,
It's
it is Bill.
Belichick.
And he has
Yeah.
just such a name to him. Like, I'd want to go there. I would love to say that I got to play for Bill Belichick. So I'm really interested to see how he does because it's not that UNC is like, a Bama, Ohio State, a Clemson, but they're not a bad football program.
No.
Uh, like historically, back in like the 80s, they were one of the top teams. So, I mean,
Yeah.
they have some tradition and culture there. So I'm really, really interested to see how he does as a college coach. And I think how he does will also be really telling to what college football has become and the culture and how it's changing. And it'll really show you, like, if he does really well, which I have all expectations that he will, I think a lot of people that are maybe stuck in their old ways will start to realize, okay, like, adapt or die.
Right. Right.
so
Right.
I'm really excited for this season to see how he does.
I second that, no question about it. I would definitely be at that Halloween game when they come here to upstate New York and play against the Syracuse Orangemen. I hope I get a chance to at least talk to them. It could be 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever. But I definitely would love to talk to Bill and just pick his mind a little bit at that time. I definitely the board has been in my mind for quite a bit, and that's because the way Alabama looked last year, um, losing to Vanderbilt the way they did was just awful. You can count the loss against Tennessee. Okay, we kind of get that. Tennessee was a team that made it to the playoffs. It was on the road, for sure. So no question. I understand that. But I believe they had a third loss too. Alabama did, but I'm blanking on the team that beat them last year.
Yeah, their final record was 9-4, which I mean is not a bad record, but it is if you're Alabama.
Right. And the reason why I say that is I don't know how much patience that administration is going to have. Yes, the
They're not.
transition from Nick Saban to DeBoer, yes, they're two totally different coaches, but you don't want to go down too much, right? Nick Saban didn't win a championship every year, but at least he was in contention for a lot of those years. Um, and he won some too. DeBoer had really bad losses last year, and like you said, had four losses. That's a bit much. I think to me, he's definitely a person that seat is warm, definitely warm and only getting hot because they definitely have to play LSU. I believe they play Georgia this year. I believe they play Tennessee this year.
They don't have
Georgia's
a
right.
cakewalk, that's for sure.
Yeah, they don't have an easy schedule, and I see multiple losses again with Alabama. So I see DeBoer being somebody as well. Now you mentioned James Franklin. Here's my thing with James Franklin and Penn State. They got them ranked at number two, which is pretty high, in my opinion. I don't think they're staying at number two
Like
at
I
all.
said, they're number two. They're almost there to number one. They
Right,
just need to
right.
get ready.
They did that on purpose. I think they honestly did that on purpose to rank them at number two. It's like, you know what? You guys are almost there, but you're not quite there. It's like, listen, we
What is it
know.
for Talladega Nights? If you
Mm.
ain't first, you're last.
You know what I'm saying? You dig. So my thing is, I already know what this script is going to be like. We kind of know what the script is going to be like. Number one, they struggle against Ohio State. They
Hmm.
lost to them at home last year. They got to go on the road this year and play the defending champs. They play against an early season matchup against Oregon, that I
Yeah, they have a tough
believe
schedule.
not easy at all. And my thing is, I don't see them staying at number two. I don't even know if they stay in the top 25, to be honest with you. And that's probably a hot take because to be ranked so high to fall out, yeah, that's a hot take. But they got Oregon, they got Ohio State. I'm trying to think of some other teams they may struggle against as well, but it's not coming to mind right now because the Big Ten obviously has exploded now with all those teams in the Big Ten coming over from the West Coast. But I
Hmm.
don't see Penn State staying at number two. I think James Franklin, it'd be a shame. It really would be a shame if they even think about getting rid of him because I think he's a great coach, but I understand the pressure because you just had your rival pretty much in the Big Ten win the national championship. And the administrations, like you said, they're running it as a business. Like they don't want to be paying all these coaches money, millions and millions of dollars. Excuse me, you're not getting the job done. But I really don't. In my opinion, I don't think James Franklin is as hot. His seat is as hot as you may think it is.
I mean, I hope not. I really like him. I think he's
Yeah,
a great coach. I'd hate to see not see him in the college football scene. But I just
me
think Penn
too.
State wants more and expects more.
They should. And they should, rightfully so. Like I said, they have the Big Ten well, they won the Big Ten championship, if I'm not mistaken. Or did Oregon win that?
I think it was
That's
Oregon.
right. It was Oregon because Oregon beat Penn State. If I'm not mistaken, it was Penn State that they beat, right?
Yeah. I could be
Yeah,
wrong. I need to go
yeah.
look. But
I,
we'll
I
go with
need to double. Yeah, we'll go with that. I think so. I think it was because Oregon, Ohio State didn't make it, because if you remember, Oregon beat Ohio State by 1 point, and then Ohio State lost to Michigan.
For
And
one,
when they lost,
I have to
when
know.
they lost to when they lost to Michigan in the final game of the season, it pushed Penn State into the Big Ten championship, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Oregon did defeat them. Wow, they did, and I think that's a rematch of the Big Ten championship. Um, Penn State has to win that. They have to beat Oregon this year, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. I think so. Let's
I know
talk
you
about.
mentioned
Go
Dan
ahead.
Mullen. Sorry to
Hmm.
interrupt.
No, you good. You good.
I just wanted to mention him because I actually got to meet him last year because he came to the Coastal Carolina App State game that was on Thursday. And I remember asking, I was like, oh, so how is it being on the broadcasting side? Because, he did broadcasting last year.
Hmm.
And he made it sound like he loved broadcasting, was never getting back into college football coaching. And now here he is at UNL.
UNLV.
Yeah. So I'm really interested. I think a lot of coaches, um, it's hard for them to walk away. I think they do it and then they, see, because when you're a competitor, it's hard to not be in that competitive scene. So I'm really
Right.
interested to see how he does because, he's been on a coaching staff that won a national championship. He
Hmm.
wasn't able to do it as a head coach. So I feel like he probably thinks he has something to prove, which I don't blame him. And I hope he gets to do it this season, or at least start it
Well,
this season.
yeah, definitely, change the culture there in Vegas. What a hell of a stadium to be in, because how do you say it? Allegiant
Yeah.
Stadium? I'm butchering the damn name, I really am. But that stadium is a beautiful stadium to be in. Uh, he has great resources out there in Vegas. Boise State is going to take a little bit of a dip back, obviously, with Ashton Genty leaving for the NFL this year. Um, I think that UNLV can build. It's going to probably take a little while because they're going to have to put some more strength of schedule opponents on their schedule for sure. But I think Dan Mullen is the right coach for them to get them going. And his hire of Vontaze Burfict to be on their staff, I think is amazing as well. Breaking news that I saw, Joanne, and that's with the University of Michigan. I'm seeing them that they have gave Coach Moore an added game of suspension, and they also gave Michigan a fine of up to $30 million. Fines, like several different fines, that's totaling up to $30 million for the infractions that the NCAA found in their investigation. Wow! But they avoided a postseason ban, as I'm seeing. They avoided postseason bans and vacation of wins, which is good, so they don't have to vacate their wins, obviously, from the 2023 national championship that they won. Wow. So that means Coach Moore will not be on the sideline for the first 3 games of the season, which is crazy. Wow. Tell me about your thoughts on that.
I was having a conversation with my dad recently just about the NCAA.
Right.
Um, I am not saying that he shouldn't be punished for what happened, but I do think as a whole the NCAA is doing more harm to college athletics than they are good.
Right.
Um, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay, okay. Now he's gonna miss the game against the University of New Mexico. Okay, not a big deal. He'll miss Oklahoma, the game at Oklahoma, which again is not a huge deal. And he'll also miss the Central Michigan game. He's due to return back versus Nebraska at Nebraska, which again, not going to be a huge big deal, but obviously not having your coach there for the first 3 games, I think Michigan will be able to survive that. But that was breaking news that wow, $30 million, my goodness! And obviously, this was also the time frame where Jim Harbaugh was head coach as well. I mean, it's amazing that you still try to gain an advantage and how you try to gain advantages with these different teams and different coaches in college football. It's amazing how many coaches and what people would do to try to get an advantage in here. Like I just don't get it. I don't understand. I mean, maybe I should say this. I understand, but at the same time, the integrity of the game is really put into question, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And I just don't like that. And because we're always finding these infractions after the fact, or coaches talking to players when they shouldn't have talked to them, or having unofficial visits, like it doesn't make any sense to me. Before I get to the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which was Heisman favorites and candidates, I gotta have you talk a little bit about Coastal Carolina. I couldn't have you
Okay.
on here and not talk about Coastal Carolina a little bit. Obviously, their football season is coming up. Talk to me about their particular team and the outlook that they have on the Southern Conference.
Well, they're not in the Southern Conference. They're in the Sun Belt.
On the
I
Sun
just
Belt, okay.
Yeah. Which honestly, the Sun Belt is it's pretty stacked when it comes to football teams. Like James Madison is in that conference.
Hmm.
Um, the Raging Cajuns. Like there's some teams in there that are competitive. I will say there's been a lot of turnover in staff. So I
Mm,
think that brings a fresh new look that they needed. I don't know if you kept up at all last season. Last season was less than ideal, to put it
yeah,
nicely.
yeah.
Um,
Not too
I
good.
really love Tim Beck, the head coach. You know, he was the one that actually like recruited Joe Burrow to Ohio State.
Mm,
He also was the offensive coordinator against NC State when they beat Clemson a couple years ago.
mm,
So I mean, he knows how to win. He knows how to win. I think just like any other coaches and programs, they're still trying to figure out this new era of college football. They just hired a general manager who came from the NFL. So I think that will be really helpful because obviously, like I said, it's a business now. It's
right.
not what it used to be. So I think with all of the new pieces that Coastal has in place, I think it is going to do a lot of good this season because I think last year it was a bit chaotic. I think not everybody was on the same page. Where I feel like everybody now, with this new coaching staff, having a GM who is like telling them, like, hey, this is how we need to do things. Um, I'm really excited to see how the season goes this year just because I think the attitude at practice, the attitude in the locker room seems to be a lot different than last year.
Is there any games that stick out to you that Coastal Carolina is going to play? You're like, ooh, man, I'm excited. Well, I cannot wait to see how they fare up against that opponent.
One is they play at South Carolina,
Ooh,
which I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Coastal used to be what is it called? Not a sister school, but a like branch of USC. They used to
okay.
be USC Coastal
Like a
before they,
subsidiary?
huh?
Like a subsidiary? Like
Yeah,
that?
like
Okay,
kind of like
gotcha.
UNC Pembroke or UNC Wilmington. They were
Got you.
USC Coastal, and so
Wow.
there's a lot of overlap. Like for instance, somebody that's actually on the board at Coastal,
Mhm.
and she was at Coastal is when they were still USC Coastal. So a lot of people that are Coastal fans are also USC fans, and there's a lot of people that came from USC to work at Coastal. So there's just a lot of overlap there. And as a Clemson girl, nothing would make my heart happier than to see Coastal go up to Williams-Brice and beat Carolina. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not. But I'm really excited to see how that matchup goes and just the energy between two programs that have a lot in common and like know each other really well. It's kind of like cousins are playing each other or families
Right,
playing each other.
right.
Um, and everybody in the state of South Carolina.
Well,
Sorry, what was that?
right, right. Well, I'm gonna say this, Joanne. I'm gonna put a hell no on that for cooking for Coastal Carolina. Now, listen, that's no disrespect to Coastal Carolina though, because Coastal Carolina is probably going.
This is me being really hopeful. Let me be hopeful
Right,
for it.
right.
Okay.
Because listen, I mean, they're going up there, and we've been to
You
what?
never know. you never know with South Carolina. I've seen the Citadel beat them. Okay, so
That is very true. That one of these years, yes, the Citadel did beat them, and upsets do happen. That's why we love college football because upsets do happen. But
so I'm manifesting it. I'm putting it out there into the world that that's what's going to happen.
which you should, because that's how it starts. It starts by putting it out to the world with manifestation. Then
Hopefully,
reality
people
hits.
see this podcast, and then it starts taking off on social media, and before you know it, everybody's rooting for Coastal that day.
Well, listen, a lot of people that go to Coastal definitely gonna do that. Now, I don't know if they're gonna stick around the whole damn game. I don't know about that.
And
Maybe there's some.
Carolina fans don't stick around the whole game. They can be winning a game and they still leave before the half because they got to go
Oh,
tailgate because that's all they
that's
care about.
true. That's very true. Listen, have you ever
And I
tailgated
know
in
that
South Carolina?
personally because I went. I remember it was my senior year. I was supposed to work
Hmm.
the Clemson at Notre Dame game, but it was COVID, so obviously they weren't
Hmm.
letting anybody. And I had a
Right.
bunch of friends in Carolina, so I was like, "Oh, I'll go to Columbia for the weekend." They were playing Kentucky, pretty good SEC matchup for them,
Right.
and they were
Right.
actually beating Kentucky at the half. And the people I was with were like, "Yeah, we're gonna leave." I'm like, "What?
Wow.
You don't even want to
Wow.
stay? Watch them maybe win a game?" I think they ended up losing anyways. And
We'll see.
Clemson
They
actually
made the
lost.
right decision. They made
And
the
Clemson
right
actually
decision.
lost to Notre Dame that night. So being in Columbia the night Clemson lost a game was is one of the layers of hell, let me tell you, because they cared
Mm.
more about the fact that Clemson lost than they did themselves losing. Um, but yeah, really excited to see some teal in Columbia.
Now, is that an early season matchup or is that a later matchup?
It's like mid-season.
Mid-season. Okay, got you,
Like
got you.
it'll
I'm
probably
definitely
be cold at that game if that tells you anything. I think it's late October, I want to say,
hmm,
maybe
okay,
beginning of
okay,
November. Oh,
okay,
actually, no, I take that back. I'm pretty sure it's the game. It is late season. It's the game right before the Clemson Carolina game. So yeah, it's
okay.
late November.
So that's November. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's definitely gonna be cold, no question. But listen, that's all right though, because uh, I'm rooting for Coastal Carolina myself, because I'm a huge Clemson person. I love Dabo, love that, love the Tigers. If I didn't go to Kennesaw State University in Georgia or UGA, Clemson would have been my next school. So there's no question about that. So I love that. Let's get into some Heisman hopefuls. Obviously, Cade is up there. Jeremiah Smith is up there for me. Jeremiah Love is up there. The number one person is going to be Arch Manning. I don't see anybody really beating him as far as, Heisman, because I think he's going to put up the most dominant numbers. He's also playing in the best conference up to power. Is it power four now? Now that the Pac-12 is
Right.
gone?
Yeah, Power Four.
Right, right. The Pac-12 is gone. So, what do you think about your Heisman hopefuls? I named about four of them there. Maybe you agree with all of them, but what is your perspective on
So before I say this, I don't want anybody to think that I don't think that Arch Manning has talent. I mean,
it?
he probably has one of the best completion rates going into the season. Now, to be fair, he has
Sure.
less games and less time played, so that obviously plays into it. I do
Right.
think he's a great talent, but in my opinion, the Heisman winner, it's usually a very political. It's usually chosen more in a political way, in my opinion, than it is the winner or the
Sure.
best player. Not to
Sure.
say that the people that get the award don't deserve it or aren't great football players, but I don't think necessarily year in and year out it goes to the best football player. And I think, or at least what I've seen, is usually which player is getting talked about most in the media seems to be the one that either comes in first or almost wins it. And so Arch Manning is obviously getting talked about all the time. Like if you mention college football, you're probably going to mention his name. Um, so I think if he just even has a decent season, I think he's going to win it. Now I'm not I don't want to count out Cade. I do think he, if he has the season that he's expected to have, it could happen. Now, this may be also me being a Clemson girl. I'm convinced that no Clemson player will ever win the Heisman because if Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence can't win it, no one's going to win it, which is really ironic considering um, John Heisman coached at Clemson, who
Right.
the
Right.
named after.
Right.
Um, but I'm like, we're all at Clemson convinced. It's called the Clemson curse. We will not win the Heisman. Um, But to me, those are the two that I think people are going to be looking at. Um, I think it's going to be Arch Manning though if he has a good year.
Yeah, typically, at least the past few years and most of the years, has been quarterbacks and wide receivers, right? You look at Devontae Smith, Alabama, he won it. Travis Hunter won it last year as a wide receiver and cornerback. The previous years, Lamar Jackson, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, hold on,
Skill
was it Lamar?
positions.
Yeah, yeah, right. But then you also had Tebow. Tebow's won it. Newton has won it as a quarterback.
Marcus Mariota for Oregon.
Marcus Mariota for Oregon has won it. I mean, the last running back that I remember won it was uh,
Derrick
Bush,
Henry.
Derrick
Did he?
Henry.
Did he win it?
Mm, I think he did. Derrick Henry did win it. You're right. You're right. Bush and Henry. Yes, he was the last running back that I think won it. Because I don't think many running backs win that award, and that's why. I mean, if
I think
Genty.
it's just running backs aren't utilized like they used to be, and I think they should be. But that's a whole
Well,
other can of
that
worms that I could open up
that
about my.
is.
I don't get paid to make decisions for offenses, so I just get to yap about it.
Right, and I love it. I love the way you yapping, Joanne. I really do. And I think it's very obvious that um, it is political. There's no question about it. I mean, in my opinion, they're gonna hype up the number one team. They're gonna hype up Arch Manning because, Peyton Manning was the number one overall pick. Eli Manning essentially was the number one overall pick, although he was
And
picked
I'm not
fourth.
saying that he doesn't deserve it. I do think,
Right,
and it's honestly really awesome when I think it was at SEC Media Day,
right,
he basically said, like, I don't deserve the hype I'm getting right now. So he seems to have a really good head on his shoulders and
right.
recognizes that he's getting a lot of what he's getting because of his last name. I don't think he necessarily like wants it or tries to take advantage of it. So
It just comes with the territory.
I would not be mad at all if he won it. I think, obviously, I don't know him personally, but outside looking in, like, he seems to have a really strong character, really strong athletic ability. So, I mean, I do think he's well rounded.
Absolutely, no question. Let's talk about these rankings. And a combination, we can talk about rankings and then also teams. Now, there's been a little bit of chatter, not a whole lot, but there's been a little bit of chatter saying they want to expand past 12 teams. Now, I think it's starting to get a little ridiculous when we do that. Because college football is already, these kids are playing a lot of games. And it's not NFL, but they're treating it like a business now, like the NFL. Because now players are getting paid for their name, image, and likeness. Um, and with all the quarterfinal games and then the semifinal games and then the championship games, you're adding three more games to a regular college football season, right? Now you're playing about 14, 15 games. Um, in my opinion, I think they should keep it at 12 because 12 was damn hard to choose last year. No question about it. In your opinion, first, do you think that they should increase the number of teams? Do you like 12?
They definitely should not increase it, in my opinion. I honestly, in my opinion, I think 12 is too many, but I think it's fine to leave it at 12. I also, before they even think about expanding it, if they do, they need to get the 12 team system right. There were so many complaints last year about where conference champions were placed, and there was just a lot of kinks that need to be worked out. So it's like, get this chapter right before you try to move to a new chapter. But in my opinion, year in and year out, there's probably at most going to be six teams that could possibly actually win the national championship.
Sure.
So I just don't think, and I know you could have 100 teams in a playoff and someone's going to complain about getting left out. That's just the
Right.
nature of the business. I mean, it
Right.
happens with basketball every year, and there's 64 teams, going into March Madness. You can't have every single football team in all of America go at it. Like, that's just
Right.
not possible. So
Right.
you're going to have people complain no matter what. I think they should leave it at 12, get that figured out, get the kinks figured out. I don't think it needs any more expanding. Like I said, I think 12 personally is too many. Usually there's not more than 5 or 6 teams that actually could contend, and we saw that with the blowouts that were happening in the playoffs. Um,
Hmm.
so
Absolutely. Yeah, Tennessee got destroyed by Ohio State. Indiana got destroyed in the playoffs. And you did. You saw a lot of non-competitive games. I think it's really simple. You have to conference champions with one loss or one or two losses deserve to be in
mhm.
my opinion. Conference champions. Conference championships with three or four losses or three or more losses, you got to look at. You got to look at and
Yeah, I
see.
think I think if you win your conference, no matter what, you should be in.
Okay, I like
I
that.
think one, it just helps to encourage people to still go, because I mean that's what why they put SMU in last year. Because if
Mhm.
they hadn't, you would have opened up Pandora's box with people being like, I'm not going to my conference championship, and then we don't have conference championships anymore. So I think if you do anything like that, you're risking people not wanting to go to their conference. Because what if that third loss was losing at their conference championship? You know,
Right.
so I think no matter what, you have to put in your conference champions.
Okay, so let me ask you this bonus question because if Clemson would have lost to SMU, that would have been their third loss. Do you think they should have still been able to get into the playoffs?
No, not at
Okay.
all.
Okay. I
Mm-mm.
got you. I got you. Because that was the argument. If SMU wins this conference championship, now you have Ole Miss, you have Clemson, you have South Carolina. You got all three of those teams with the same record. But then you got 11-2 Miami, who plays in a conference that is not as good as the SEC. So that's where I'm like, ooh, that would have been very tough because I don't know if you put a three-loss team in my opinion, you don't put a three-loss team in the playoffs.
Yeah,
And that's
especially if
the
they lose their championship.
it's it's tough to do, and it's just because there's so many teams out there. It's over 300 plus D1 schools. There's over 25 ranking spots, and
Yeah.
we personally know, like you said, only 5 or 6 teams legitimately have a chance to win it all. And I'm gonna say Texas, Ohio State, Georgia, maybe Notre Dame, Clemson this year, possibly. Those five for sure. And then, I don't really believe in Penn State, but I know they rank pretty high. But I would say
I
those
believe
five.
in them. James Franklin, if you hear this, I believe in you. I'm saying they're winning it all this year. That
You
might be a
there?
really hot take, but I
Hmm.
just feel like they're giving me the same vibe. I know I'm getting into like a whole new topic of conversation, but they are giving me the same vibe that Ohio State gave last year. So that's solely what I'm basing it off of. That's probably not enough. Um, maybe if I was actually going to Vegas and having to bet on this with money, I might not be making
Mm.
that decision.
Oh,
But
hell no,
here
you
on
wouldn't.
the podcast, I'm gonna say Penn State.
Hell no. There's no way you would fly on a plane, go to Caesar's Sportsbook, and put your money on Penn State. No, you would not do that. But it here's the thing. You don't it's not crazy to say because again, I don't want to call them experts, I'll call them pundits, have put this team at number two out of
I
the
think a lot of people doubted Ohio State last year. So I don't know.
Mhm,
It's like I said, it's just giving me a lot of the same thing where it's like they have the same caliber of talent.
mhm,
They are so hungry. They are starved for winning a national championship.
mhm.
That you just play different when you have a you do. You just play different when you have a chip on your shoulder.
It's
So
not far fetched. It's not far fetched than what you're saying. I just think that if you twisted my arm and you made me give an answer, I would probably say no, that's not what it is. Because you're right. After Ohio State lost to Michigan in their final game of the season, we all jumped off the bandwagon because we was like, no, this team ain't gonna win. And all of a sudden they turned it on in the playoffs. Blew out Tennessee, then beat a Texas team if I'm not mistaken, and then went
mhm.
on to beat Notre Dame. So it was one of those things where it was like, okay, they turned to, and they were the eighth seed, Ohio State was, to win it all. So it's very possible that Penn State can possibly make some noise. But again, I go back to what my thing is about them. They can't seem to beat Ohio State, no matter where they play. They can play in Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, all of the planets combined. They just can't seem to beat that team for whatever reason. I don't know
I
why,
hope they do. I'd love to see them beat Ohio State. Even if they
right?
don't win it all, I would love to see them beat Ohio State.
And I'm sure they would too, because it would help James Franklin's case a hell of a lot. No question about that. Is there any team that you saw in the top 25 ranking that you said, "Ooh, that's surprising"?
I would say Oklahoma, just
Yep,
because I'm pretty sure they had a losing season last year.
they did.
And to me, it's like, how are you going to be in the top 25 having a losing season, a losing record the previous season?
Hmm.
Um, I hope that Brent Venables, because as a girl who I got to cover him all 4 years at Clemson,
Hmm.
great coach, great guy, not one bad thing to say about him. Anytime I asked him a question, he was more than willing to answer it. Great person to work with. Um, I just unfortunately think that he knows, this is going to sound weird, he knows football too well. He needs to be back at being a coordinator because he is really, really smart. And he knows how to, put together a defensive scheme that could stop any offense. And so I think that's where he needs to stay and where he needs to be. I don't think he has that same personality that gets guys to drink his Kool-Aid and to buy into what he's selling.
Right.
Um, so and if you look at their schedule, they have probably one of the toughest schedules in all of the country this year.
No
They
question.
play a lot of top 25 talent from
Yes, they
top to
do.
bottom.
Yes,
So,
they do.
unfortunately, I see them having the same record this year that they did last year, if not worse.
No, no question. No question about that.
I think they're only in the top 25 because they're an SEC team and they're Oklahoma. They're like, there's just some programs that are name brand programs. Oklahoma's a name brand program, and it helps that they're in the SEC. So I was really surprised to see that they were in the top 25.
Me too. Obviously, they got to play Texas this year. They got to play Tennessee this year. They have to play
See,
Bama this year. They have to play LSU this year.
South Carolina.
Um, and they got to play South Carolina this year. And they also have to play a Michigan team early on in the season. So, yeah, and not to mention Ole Miss that they have to play. To me, they're playing a lot of ranked teams. This is a team that's probably going to lose about 4 or 5 games again. It was definitely a shocker to see Brent Venables' team in the top 25. And I just think, like you said, because their name is Oklahoma Sooners and they have the strength of schedule that they have, that they got placed in the top 25. Ooh, they're playing a lot of teams that are ranked. But if you really look at it, most of these teams that are ranked, they're probably not going to beat. Um, Now they do have, uh, they got a chance to turn that around. I mean, they have a lot of chances to really make a
I hope
believer
they
out of
do.
some
Like I
people.
said, I love Brent Venables. I would love to see him succeed. I would love to see him do well. I just, I think he just needs to be back at coordinator. He knows football way too well
Hmm.
to,
Struggle like this is what you mean?
yeah. I just think it's so rare. Nick Saban was such a unique coach in the sense that he not only ran the business but actually called the plays, coached the football.
Hmm.
Um, do you get what I'm saying? Where
Yep.
he was doing both. Where I feel like nowadays you have coaches where you have two coaches. It's like the rah rah ones and the stern ones, and they build
Mhm.
this culture and they run the business. It's really rare to see a coach that is doing both the X's and the O's and the running the business.
Right.
Um,
Great
so
manager. Great manager of the team and
yeah,
managing, like you said, the business and the rah rah and having that balance. Knowing how to
yes.
have that balance between the two.
Yeah. So I just unfortunately think that it's been a struggle for him, which I hate because I when I hated that he left. I wanted him to stay.
Right, right.
um, and so I hate to see him do not be doing well, but I just unfortunately think being a coordinator is, and I know it's every coach's or most coaches' end goal to be a head coach.
Hmm.
So I understand completely. I mean, getting to say like, oh, I was a head coach at a Power 4 school in the
Right,
SEC,
right.
is fun to put and great to put on your resume. But I genuinely think he would be better being a coordinator.
That's why I didn't mention him as one of the people in the hot seat because the
No,
expectations
I
can't
don't want to
be.
talk about it.
Right, right. He's definitely, to me, he's definitely not. He's definitely not in the hot seat at all because the expectations for Oklahoma can't be high. There's no way you could be high when you put that type of schedule together. That's murderer's row. I mean, that's just what it is. You have a lot of teams that's ranked on that schedule, that's ahead of you 9 times out of 10. That's going to beat you, and that's just the way it is. Now, I expect the defense to be better with Oklahoma. Last year, that defense was not very good. Brent got to get that defense right. There's just no other way to sugarcoat that. But it's going to take some time. It's going to take some time being in the SEC, being that the SEC is now expanded. It, I just don't see good things for that particular program this year or even next year. But
It's hard.
hopefully sooner people can give it some patience.
It's hard to build a program though when you are going up against teams like that because
Hmm.
it doesn't give you any wiggle room to work on things. Like you've got to bring your A game week in and week out.
Right.
And then when you're not winning, it causes people to be frustrated. So, I mean, it's really hard to build up a program and build up guys when that's what you're having to go up against.
I love it. I love it. Now, you said your national champion is Penn State.
I'm sticking
Okay.
by it.
Sticking by it. I'm sticking by Ohio State. So what we're going to do, Joanne, at the very end of the season, when it's award time, we're going to come right back on here and we're going to discuss the bowl games. We're going to discuss the different things and we're going to talk about this season as a whole. Obviously, I cannot wait 8 days, 8 days away from the kickoff of week 0 of this season. And obviously, a couple next week, it'll be the Chick-fil-A kickoff, and everybody else will be kicking off. And we'll be watching some damn good top 10 matchups. I am looking forward to it. I know you're looking forward to the season. Best of luck to you being a PA announcer out there in Coastal Carolina. I hope you do get to catch some Carolina games as well. And it was a pleasure having you on this podcast talking some college football with you. You're amazing.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for having me.
No doubt. You take care now. Enjoy your Friday and your weekend.
You too. Bye bye.